Mhm.
Okay, hello everyone and welcome. Welcome. It's been a few weeks, maybe a month or so since we've been live on Facebook. We're so grateful to have you all back here today. So today we have an inaugural event. So we have started a year-long program, a Path of a Magdalena program, and this program is gifted. And so how it will work is each month, starting in April and moving forward, we will share a Path of a Magdalena video on one of the qualities of Mary Magdalena. And then throughout the entire month, we'll have different ways for everyone to engage in that quality and learning more about Mary Magdalena and with our community. So as a member of this program, you'll receive this path video on the first Sunday of every single month. And then moving forward on the second Monday, we'll have this Facebook Live. And we'll at that time discuss that specific quality with a group of Magdalena practitioners. And then throughout the entire month, we'll have ways to engage with this quality and the community throughout our social media platforms. So we're so grateful to have you all here with us today. And we are going to start with a very, I don't want to say special because they're all special, but this quality of compassion. So that's what our first Magdalena quality is. And that's what the focus of this month is, compassion. And so I have three Magdalena practitioners here with me today. I have Claire Sheehan from Ireland. I have Lisa Guinan, also from Ireland. And then we have Lillian Catalano joining us from France. And my name is Kara Campani, and I am joining you from the United States, right outside of Washington, D.C. So I would like to begin. We have a few questions to pose to this panel today. And I also invite you to engage in the chat on Facebook Live. If you have any questions, any comments, anything that's really relevant to you on this topic with respect to what our practitioners are sharing, really let us know. So type in the chat. We want this to be an experience that everyone is a part of. So to start, my first question for the panel is, what is compassion? Lillian, do you want to go first?
Yes, I can start. And there's a little paradox for me in compassion, because at the same time, I feel it as something very intimate, deep in my heart, not necessarily showing outside. And at the same time, for me, it's connected to action. It's like love in action. And what comes to me when I speak about that is very beautiful and deep experiences I've had when I took part in humanitarian actions in India, being part of a small team and bringing vitamin A to children in slums, in very poor areas, in cities and villages. And when I spoke about the conditions of these kids, sometimes they couldn't go to school. They were, sorting out garbage where they were. And my friends, when I came back, were telling me, oh, it must be terrible, awful. How can you bear to see all this misery? And actually, I was surprised, because what I felt is a deep joy inside, seeing the eyes of these young kids. When we came like 6 months after, every 6 months, we brought these vitamins. And what I felt was such a deep connection and oneness. I was not, of course, I saw the misery. Of course, I saw that we couldn't do much. We could see people dying, and we had only these vitamins. At the same time, I was just doing what my heart was calling me to do. And I felt very peaceful about that. And there was a joy to be able to manifest my compassion in action, even if it was like a small thing to bring on the planet. So that's what's coming to me today.
Lisa or Claire, anything to add?
I can jump in. I suppose for me, it's the compassion really where I really feel sometimes my heart just expanding is in my work. When I'm working and I'm with somebody, I work in homeopathy. So when I'm with somebody and I see certain behaviors, and when I understand, when I hear that person's worldview or how they perceive what's happening or how they are, what their reality is, sometimes it just, my heart just really expands. It's like just knowing, I suppose it's love with understanding. It's like understanding what's there, who's hurt you, for instance, that phrase, if somebody's doing something, it's like, what did this to you, or who did this to you? And it's just that, I don't know, it's such a physical reaction for me. It's where my heart really expands. And there's just that oneness. It's really powerful. And obviously, if I've been judging before, then I can really notice that more, once the understanding comes. And also I can relate to what Lillian says, is sometimes in situations where I've been involved in humanitarian work, and it's just that joy of being able to actually do something and be part of something and be in it with people, really brings that same heart opening, that it's just like, again, I suppose it's oneness. It's like we're all the same, we're all one, and this is what I can do.
Thank you, Claire. So I just want to share that I'm looking at some of the comments in the Facebook Live right now, and I see a lot of people wanting French translation. And Lisa, I don't think that's possible on Facebook Live right now, is it?
Yeah, right now we don't have it, but it is something that we hope to have.
Yes.
That would be our next step.
And also, I'm totally
maybe I can translate that for the French.
Yes, and Lillian, maybe also that we would be totally open to, offering some of these in French for people who are interested.
Donc, pour l'instant, nous n'avons pas la traduction française de ces Facebook Live, mais nous y travaillons et nous allons offrir certaines de ces rencontres en français. Donc, restez à l'écoute.
Thank you. So one thing that I was very interested in when I was watching the Path video, the interview with Diane, was this: compassion requires an opening of the heart without judgment. And I can think of, for me, many times in my life where I really felt like I was in compassion and I was judging. So for example, like in my work, if I see something that really feels wrong, but I can feel compassion for the people who I believe are wronged, it doesn't fully fit that definition of compassion because there is judgment there for me. So I'm wondering if you all can share a little bit about that. Like how can we really do that? How can we be that compassion without judgment?
Yeah, I'll share, Cara. So I suppose for me, when I see somebody who's suffering or who's having a hard time, my first thing is I empathize with them, so I jump into their shoes and, I really get a sense of what that feels like. So I'm kind of I'm there with them, but there can also be like a bit of helplessness, because I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? I'm empathizing, but where do I go from here? And, I can have a tendency to, want to blame somebody. So like, okay, who did this to you? And then I have a judgment. That would be my automatic thing. It's like, oh, they did it to you. And I judge. And once I go into that judgment, I can't be in a state of compassion. In fact, the person who is responsible, who I want to blame, I can get like angry towards them, so I end up like, I start off with, I'm empathizing with the person who's been hurt. And then I can find myself resonating with the person who did the hurting, because then I want to, I'm angry at them. And, for me, I find that if I just consciously stop at that point and just not go into any judgment about what anybody has done, then it's like a natural progression for me, that I start off in empathy. And when there's no judgment, like naturally I step back into my heart. And I naturally move into a state of compassion, whereas now I begin to hold this heart space for the people who are in this situation. So I'm not caught in the middle of it anymore. I have stepped back and I'm holding this space, which is different to being in the space of the person who's hurt and then moving into the space of the person who has hurt them. It allows me to move back and hold my heart. And I do find that for me, I can't be in judgment and in compassion. It's like this lock where it's one or the other. And once I don't judge, it's the opening backwards into the compassion.
I may add a little thing about that. Actually, there is something very subtle there, because it's true. I resonate with what Lisa's just been saying. If I'm judging, then there is like something closing in my heart, a separation, and I cannot really be in compassion. And what I feel is something to explore. I do not mean that it is fully always clear to me, but the difference between judgment and discernment, because I may choose not to be in judgment. It doesn't mean that I'm approving or that I have no opinion about anything. I can discern and say, this is not what I would do. It can be clear, but not contracting in it and focusing, like Lisa said, in holding the space of my heart open. And then it's like a choice. The situation is the same. My position is the same, but I'm not in reaction where there is contraction and separation. I'm just seeing all this and making the choice of keeping the space of my heart open so that I can share with the person hurt and the person who has done the hurt also.
And Lillian, what I hear in what you shared and also in what Lisa shared is what makes all the difference in the world is the way that you can then show up.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. Yes, and it is the way I feel also in my body, because actually to know if I am in compassion, I have to check in my body if there is a contraction or if there is this, I have this image of a lotus flower, opening like this, quietly, tranquilly. It doesn't necessarily show outside, but inside I know when I am in this compassion, and I can hold the space for others to also to reconciliate with themselves or to heal something. I just need to hold the space of compassion, and something is happening for me, of course, but also for those around me.
And it's a beautiful state to be in.
Yeah. Just
Right.
wow.
Yeah, and can you just imagine if the whole world was in that state, the different world that we could create in times that are really hard and that, they seem very difficult, but the difference that could make
Yeah.
And
if we were all the lotus flowers.
and it's very definitely a feeling in the body for me. It's like there's an ease or a softening and a warmth that kind of in my heart versus almost a stiffening, like a hardness or a bracing energy. It's like very different from each other.
Hmm. And there's like a strength in it as well, Claire, isn't there? Do you get that too?
Oh,
It's like that you can handle anything almost.
yeah. You can surrender, I suppose. I can surrender. There's an ease in it versus that bracing energy, which feels very harsh on my body.
Yeah, there's definitely a surrender in it. Totally get that.
And it can be hard, just as you said, Cara, sometimes think something can be really hard to.
And what is great is that this surrender is not in opposition with action. It is surrender to what it is and then just be in the flow. And then if there are actions to take, they come naturally. If it's just being there and sharing love, this is what is happening. There is no need to force anything in this compassion.
And yet there's a power, like if something needs to be said,
Yeah.
something needs to be sort of like, this is not okay. It can still be said with that, like with the holding that space. I mean, that's the key to it for me. I suppose you see it with kids, your mother, just with a kid, like when you really feel and they want to really do something, but yet it's not okay. And it's holding that space in the heart. But at the same time, like, nope, this isn't happening. You're not doing this. This is not okay. So it's not about the surrender where you like allow something, it's a strong surrender, in other words.
Yeah, and I think the right action naturally comes from that then, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I also feel that when that happens as well, that there's there can be no hurt almost. Do you know what I mean? There's no hurting. It can be, God, I could really sort of annoy someone to say no or whatever from that place, but there's no hurt versus there's an energy that comes when I'm not in my heart if I'm holding a boundary.
Yeah. And so I think probably most people can relate to this in a way where, we see what's going on in Ukraine and Russia right now. And I'm really wondering, how do we apply compassion to that? When something that you really feel is wrong and people are being harmed, how do we show up as that compassion? How is that compassion in action without judgment?
I would say for me that I need to be vigilant because very easily I can, go on one side and another, and judgment is coming very quickly in this kind of situation. When there is tension, when there is separation, it was the same with the pandemic, not vaccinated, non-vaccinated, there was all this tension, and just keeping the space. There is space for every human in that, and just opening the heart and pouring love. And of course we can support, we can, but bring relief and whatever. But I know that I need to be careful not to take sides and go on the fight, because it's not helping anybody. And it's not helping me in that. So just coming again and again and just opening to all the beings that are suffering. And in a war, there are the humans, there are also animals, there are all creatures that are all beings that are suffering from that.
And I know from me, judgment is almost like a protection that I can slip into, because I can find it painful to be in my heart around what's happening in the Ukraine, for instance, or anywhere where there's people and animals and just human beings suffering. So it can be so painful to be present in my body to what's happening, that to go into judgment. And I would have been a very big activist at one point, where I would love to go out in the streets and fight, and it was a lot easier in that sense, because it stopped me feeling the helplessness or something that I felt, and the pain of suffering that I have no control over. And I think for me, that's where the compassion comes back to in these situations, which is to really be in my heart and, well, what can I do? What is my role in this? How can I show up? Is there something I can do? And find what it is I can do. And then for the other, personally, I light a candle. I hand it over to my higher self. I hand it over to the light beings, and I say, I'm surrendering to you because I have no control here. I'm doing what I can, and I guess the rest is up to you. And that for me is the compassion. And if there's something I can do, though, I will do it. But I do check in that it's from a place of responding rather than reacting, because the reacting just doesn't work. Years of trying, it just doesn't work. And all it does is it stops me feeling, and it adds to that energy of fear and duality and division. And I turn into, as Lisa said, I turn into the person that I'm trying to judge.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to that as well. For a while, I was in denial about what was happening with Russia and Ukraine. And I kind of became aware of it at some stage, that like, I'm just not going here at all. So I kind of I sat with myself, and I was like, okay, well, let's just go here. Because there was a part of me that I knew, there's people here really suffering, and there's people here, bullying. And it's like, I didn't want to go there with those energies. So I sat with myself, and I went there. And like Claire was saying, I went to other people being really hurt, and the helplessness. And I just let it all play out. And, then there was that piece again of, well, the people who are doing it, like of me, the judgment that they are wrong and they shouldn't be doing this. And next minute I had this little picture of myself almost going out. I wanted to go and kill them. I literally wanted to go and kill them. And I was thinking, is this how it happens? That I suddenly feel justified because I've judged them. I feel justified to go and do harm to them. And maybe I do harm to them, and then somebody else sees the hurt I've done and they feel justified to come and harm me. And maybe this is how we all end up in this vicious cycle of really hurting each other because we feel justified. And maybe these people who are hurting, they feel justified inside of them to be doing what they're doing. And I kind of seen that whole piece, and I could see where I can be, not on the big scale of Russia and Ukraine, but I can be that person who can hurt another person because I feel justified in my own mind for whatever reason. And it just gave me a really good insight into how those energies can play out inside of me. And that part then of not judging it and moving into the compassion, the place that we're speaking about of stepping out of all the reaction and being able to hold something different, something beautiful.
I think that for me, the discernment though is to judge the action and the behavior though, because the behavior is wrong, the action is wrong. Maybe I'm not being compassionate, but for me, it's like the judgment. There is an action for me in this, in terms of discerning the action and the behavior from the people. And even to bring that back to myself, because, you know, there is nobody out there, like there's just me with me in this, and it's to be vigilant of that in me, like you're saying, Lisa, to be vigilant of it in me. But it's really important not to confuse the compassion for me with compassion for letting people in any way off the hook for behavior and action that's totally unacceptable. But it's discerning that it's behavior and action that's not okay, as opposed to people.
Yeah, Claire, I think that's a great point. Just because we are in a state of compassion, it doesn't mean that we are in agreement.
Exactly.
With the...
Or bypassing, more importantly, bypassing.
Yeah.
You know, that is like a spiritual bypass of like, we just do the love and it'll be fine. We do the love and it'll be fine, but we also need to take an action sometimes with ourselves or with each other, with wherever, when there's an action or behavior where people or situations are being hurt, that's not in alignment with love, do you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's a tricky one. It's tricky.
Yeah, and the importance of the action being aligned with compassion.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back to compassion in action.
Yeah, because we can make a big mess if we don't. I think we all have examples of that, right? We only have 5 more minutes, or else we could do that for another 3 hours. But yeah, I think that's just a really great point, and so important for me to remember that just because I'm in compassion doesn't mean it's okay. That's important for me. Okay, so ladies, I want to switch to our final question for the day. And so in the Path video, Mary Seiss and Diane Brenneman spoke about something called a Magdalena walk.
Mm-hmm.
And they described this as walking with someone who's going through a really difficult or tough time and really just being with them. So I'm wondering if you all can share on, who was Mary Magdalena in doing that walk, or how did Mary Magdalena do the Magdalena walk? And also, when have you done that? I'll say also, or you can share on either. Lisa, do you want to go first? I see you. I think you're pretty excited over that, right?
You're reading me wrong, Cara. Yeah, I suppose it's just that place when look, I do it with people. It's what we're saying about holding that space, being able, not being in the denial. It's to really be there and to be able to walk with the person, but to be holding that state of compassion, so that you're holding something different for them to step into. And yeah, I would do it, for example, when my mom had a very serious illness recently, and she was very vulnerable, and I would have done that for her. I would have walked along with her, not in the fear, but in the holding of something that she could be comforted by.
Yes, and Lisa, not necessarily changing the circumstances.
Oh, no, definitely, yeah.
Exactly how it is being with that person.
Exactly.
That's what I hear you say. Yeah.
Yeah, and being fully with the situation as it is. So there's no denial. Being fully with it as it is. Yeah.
Lillian, what about you?
What comes to me is the way I don't know if you say this like that, like accompany the people in my groups of, in my meditation groups. Some of them have been with me for many years, and I'm like present it's the idea of being present and open and being able to listen. And I have these examples of sometimes these friends calling me and just sharing, and they're open. My heart is open. And sometimes I'm asking questions or bringing them a little further. Sometimes I'm just present. And at the end of the call, they just feel so good. They just feel relieved, and they have made all the path themselves. There is something like evidence, but it is so important that I was there without any idea to fix them or to change the situation, but be there fully. And just by being there fully, they can do the work in themselves. They can come to a change. And, it's not something I'm doing, but I come back to what Lisa was saying at the beginning, like holding the space for them with my heart open. And I feel this is what Mary Magdalena did with the crucifixion and all of that. And maybe Claire can add to that. Oh.
Yeah, certainly. First of all, I can safely say it would have been something I would run away from, is that helplessness in the face of somebody else's pain. And I suppose for me, the journey has been when my daughter has had to go through some really painful, and it's my job. So I sat there and just staying, holding and surrendering again to knowing I can't take this from her. This is her journey, but I can walk the walk with her. And this week, just to say, people have that opportunity to join us to find out about how Mary Magdalena did that walk, because she did that walk so amazingly. I mean, I do believe that she knew, as did Jesus, as did Yeshua, know what was ahead. Mightn't have known exactly, but they knew what was ahead. And just the way, the Magdalena, Mary just stepped in and helped to prepare him, so present to witness him right through from Thursday. And on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and again Sunday this week, there'll be the opportunity to join us at this time on, it will be a Zoom link. So if some of the people watching, for instance, have not already signed up to Magdalena Healing, if you do want to be part, you will need to go on magdalenahealing.com and give your email to get the invitation to join us on Zoom. And we'll have the different Magdalena teachers sharing on Thursday, for instance. They will be speaking to the anointing of the feet, and also just how in the 2022, what it's like for us to walk this walk in our own lives. And so we'll have people sharing on Friday, literally what it would be like to do that Calvary walk. And again on Saturday, just how Mary Magdalena helped prepare Jesus with the ancient Egyptian mysticism, the ways she had learned how to prepare him through for his resurrection. So the walk literally from his death to his resurrection into the light body. And then on Sunday with Mary Sykes, Mary, who's the director of our Magdalena Healing Program. So I really, if people haven't signed up, I urge you to sign up, because it will be beautiful. It'll be for 30 minutes at 1:00 Eastern, which will be 6:00 Ireland time and 7:00 European time.
And it will be translated into French.
And German.
And German.
Both French and German.
I think Mary Magdalena was such a great example of so many things for us. And compassion is at the top of that list for me. And I think of the way that Mary walked with Jesus.
How painful.
Especially in those final moments.
And to stay with him, to stay all day. Wow.
Yeah. And that took compassion.
For herself as well as for him, I'm sure. And for everything.
Compassion for all the players. So to everyone on Facebook Live, we invite you to dive into this compassion. Practice what this looks like in your everyday life. Have compassion for yourselves. Practice that heart open state without judgment. And if judgment comes up, that's okay. Don't judge it. Don't judge the judgment. Just take a breath, move back into your heart. And we will be here with you on this compassion journey. Stay tuned to our social media. And if you are available, please come this week for the different events that Claire just spoke of. I think the compassion will be alive in those events. So we all thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to having you for this program over the next year. And we are so grateful. I hope y'all have a wonderful day.